for those that aren't familiar with some of your work, and because your background's kind of diverse, do you mind kind of sharing just a little bit about some of that background and what led you into getting into specifically like the cannabis chemistry and extraction and all of the work that you're kind of focusing on now?
Yeah, sure. I started in the cannabis industry when it was fledgling in Colorado. So we had the caregiver structure in 2009, and we started seeing retail dispensaries open up, but there wasn't licensing for it. And it still kind of mimicked what California has
Yeah.
going on at the time in a lot of ways. And so, I got involved on the retail end. I lived in the Vail Valley, and we wanted to sell high-end cannabis products to those high-end medical patients. And in 2010, licensing started, and in Colorado, that meant vertical integration.
Mm.
So being from a marketing background and working on the retail side of things, I had no preparation for an extraction lab, and certainly no preparation for large-scale cultivation. And so it was all just something that was kind of thrown at us, and we had to get involved. I did my best to delegate where I could, but the lab was one of the hardest ones to delegate out, because there, a lot of people had grown for decades.
Yeah.
But there wasn't much for extraction historically. Like a lot of people were doing bubble hash, but that is not even, in the same department, especially at the time. We were just starting to see things like amber glass, which was like a shatter made from ethanol, you know, and we were starting to see the butane honey oil, and we were still really just calling it honey oil at the time, and not even really referencing how it was being made, because everything was still a big secret for a really long time, which is part of the reason why education is so important to me, because the first 3 to 4 years of my cannabis career, especially in the extraction world, there was nowhere to get good information.
Yeah.
There was a couple of hard to navigate forums with a lot of code words and screen names. And it was really difficult to use that information in a practical way. And not having that chemistry background, was certainly a disadvantage. But at that time, we weren't doing chemistry. We were barely extracting, material. We were leaving a lot of cannabinoids behind. We were not purifying anything, and we had no analytical testing to support it. So, the concentrates that we made, we had no potency data on. We had no pesticide data. We had no heavy metal testing. I couldn't tell you how many milligrams of THC or anything else. It was all anecdotal. It was all descriptive. And, I look back at that and just get anxious about all of the products that I made and sold that I wouldn't do today, because we just didn't have the tools. So, fast forward a few more years, and the internet makes things a lot easier. 10 years is a long time in terms of internet development. And so more information became accessible, which is good and bad. A lot of bad information became accessible, but what is more relevant is that we have the social media aspect of it. And so now I could actually network with real humans. And as more states became legalized, people were less afraid to actually share what they were doing. And like real consultant jobs started becoming a thing. And so we started to talk a lot more and develop methods. And that's where I kind of got into the extraction space, in a very much more serious way, because we started to actually have real standards to pursue. And I had started to meet the type of people who were doing things that I wanted to emulate. And from there, I got involved on the equipment end of things. In 2014, I started working for Extraction Tech Solutions, which was one of the only hydrocarbon equipment manufacturers at the time. And I started doing private consulting. From there, I just became fully immersed in the world of extraction. So from, just straight up cannabis extraction to also the burgeoning hemp industry.
Yeah.
And, we've just kind of gone all the way from black oil to white powder in the last few years.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating to kind of see that laid out on an image timeline.
My Facebook memories can be scary sometimes. I don't know.
What is it that particularly about extraction now that's really driving your passion to kind of continue that focus in that arm of things?
I think one of my favorite things about extraction has always been that it's very objective.
Mm.
Once we started bringing analytical testing into it and started actually doing chemistry in the labs, it was really rewarding because I could perform a process, I could get results, and I could repeat those
Yeah.
results. And compare that to like cultivation, where every step you take today, you
Right.
see the results of that weeks, months ahead of that point. So there's no instant gratification in
Yeah.
cultivation, whereas extraction is instant gratification. Every 30 minutes I get to see the results of what I've achieved, and so it feels very productive.
Yeah.
And it also gives me a lot of room for error, which is very exciting for me because I love the experimentation of it.
Yeah.
With cultivation, even just having a table that you try out new nutrients on can affect literally the rest of the garden. Whereas with extraction, I can have a new idea. I can try a new piece of equipment. I can tweak a process. I can make these changes, minute to minute, day to day, and get to evaluate the efficiency. And so the potential for growth
Mm-hmm.
is just phenomenal, because it's exponential. Every
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
day I can try something new, and every new test result gives me 10 more questions to go chase down the rabbit hole. So it is constant change and very fast moving, which I find personally rewarding. I'm the type of person that rearranges my furniture often. I
Right.
love
Yeah.
change,
Yep.
and extraction is nothing but change.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. That'd be really exciting to be caught up in that accelerated process of refinement of technologies and process and everything. You really get to see it unfold in a way that's unique.